Hi there, how are you doing? I've just had a couple of days where I've been so grumpy. Grump. And I thought, what's going on? What is it? I shouldn't be this grumpy. And then, it hit me. I block things out easy. Um, it was the anniversary of my loved one suiciding. It was many years ago. Many years ago, but when that date comes round, it still gets to me, even if I try and block it out. And I remember him always saying to me, better to remember the day of someone's dying than their being born. And he certainly found a good way to bring that home to me, didn't he? So that also then made me think, reminded me that they used to say that if you were bereaved by suicide, you were at higher risk of suicide afterwards. So I wondered if that still held true, because if so, that could be a useful piece of information that we can have to help others. So this is what I found. So here's a report, a study from 2010 was when the study was carried out, and this is published in the BMJ, which is the British Medical Journal. So that is the official journal, for medical journal in the UK. So they looked at 3,432 young bereaved adults. Those adults went between the ages of 18 and 40 to see is to test the hypothesis that young adults bereaved by suicide have an increased risk of suicide ideation and suicide attempt compared with young adults bereaved by other student deaths. Now, I'm pretty bad at seeing stats and interpreting them, so you can go to this online and look at the whole thing yourself, and there's charts as well. But what I'll do is I'll cut to their conclusions for you. So their conclusion is bereavement by suicide is a specific risk factor for suicide attempt when compared with bereavement due to sudden natural causes, whether blood related to the deceased or not. As the association between suicide bereavement and suicide attempt is attenuated when taking into account perceived stigma, further investigation of the role of stigma and reduced help seeking is warranted. Such work will inform the development of acceptable interventions delivered after potentially traumatic losses. Our findings suggest that suicide risk assessment should extend screening for a family history of suicide to any history of suicide in non-blood relatives and friends. However, until we have evidence-based interventions for this group, the best ways of mitigating this risk of suicide attempt are unclear. So it is concluding that, yeah, that is correct. You are at higher risk of suicide if you've been bereaved by suicide, or a suicide attempt if you've been bereaved by suicide. But this doesn't only extend to blood relatives, but other people in your circles, and that also elsewhere they've written that includes your work environment, and that would certainly include in your spiritual environment, wouldn't it? So I still get people moaning on. I had someone yesterday moaning on. There have never been any jabbed up call suicides. I have one regular banana head who still yells at me, "You're a liar! You're a liar!" That there's never been one. You've never been able to prove one. In fact, when well, I've spoken about it enough already. So, but hey, and if we're going to talk then about the fact that these do happen for whatever reasons within communities, then those around are going to be at greater risk, and that does include indeed people of that spiritual family. It's also a sobering thought for those who are feeling suicidal. Now, when you're feeling suicidal, logic can go out the window. You know, there can be tsunamis of emotions, inability to think clearly, and in so much pain in different ways that you just want it to end. But sometimes there is also an element where people feel that they're releasing other people from the burden. You know, that if that they are themselves a burden on others, so if they die, they relieve people around them of that burden. And I'm hoping for those people that you can see that if you if you die yourself by suicide, you're not necessarily releasing people from you and your pain. You're actually you're actually tying them. You can be tying them to your pain even more, and to yourself even more. So it is not a release, but it's an understandable thought process and feeling when someone is that low. And it is also a reminder that if we know anyone who's been for by any means, but particularly by suicide, to keep being kind, to keep supporting, keep being loving, keep being kind. And that also goes to any current J-dubs who are watching this, who you may know someone in your congregation who's been bereaved by suicide. Maybe their loved one got disfellowshipped, disassociated, um, they just they faded, and as a result were shunned and then committed suicide. So do comfort, do comfort anyone you know like that. And if it's you, then comfort yourself. Be comforting to yourself. Ask for professional help. Go to professional grief counsellors, and that doesn't stop you having your spiritual comfort at all. Because a proper grief counsellor, a proper mental health care practitioner will take into account your spiritual beliefs as well. And there is a lot of stigma. There's a lot of embarrassment, and I think sometimes that can even get cranked up more in J-Dub land, because it's also you're not turning your back on life, you're turning your back on Jehovah and all this. So even if there aren't words, you can be there, you can show small kindnesses, you can sit quietly with someone. Just do the little tiniest things can make a huge difference to someone who's suffering that day. But be aware, do your own research. You can also speak for free to suicide advice lines. Now, you don't have to be suicidal yourself to contact those lines. You could be in the process of helping someone else and need to know where to go, what to do, what facilities are available in the region where you all live. That's perfectly legitimate. So, sensitivity, love, understanding, empathy, feeling from your heart is going to help. Is going to help. Um, Never downplay it, you know. Okay, so I hope that's helped, and I do need to be doing some more videos really on the facts and possible consequences of suicide for J-dubs and some of the particular dynamics. So I'll try and do those. I have to sort of gird my loins a bit sometimes for obvious reasons, and mix them up with some just silly Mickey taking videos. You know, you can understand that. So there you have, hope you can see at the top of this, bmjopen.bmj.com. So do look in your local regions, and just be kind and loving. And to anyone, if you are feeling like this, as always, get medical help, ring up a free phone line, get online, so see your doctor, get into A&E, if necessary. Just get yourself to A&E, speak to someone, speak to a stranger, speak to a loved one, make promises to yourself, make pacts with yourself about trying to hold on, but get it looked at. Take it a breath at a time. You don't have to think about the next hour or tomorrow, the day after, next week. Just each breath in its own time. Okay, so love to everyone, and take care.